Hi,
Hey,
how you doing? We got
good.
we got multiple ways to connect.
Yeah, I know. I know there's like lots of different apps that do this.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's fine.
yes.
Well, this
Yay.
so this Fan Electric Ghost, and we're talking to Jess Davis for the third time.
Yes. Hello.
Yes,
Hi again.
yeah. So, like, since last time we talked, you were working on a lot of film projects. You were working on some Netflix stuff, and
Yeah.
maybe we can get into like where you are and all those projects. And
Yeah, I mean I've been doing a lot with film and TV as of late. I did I want to say that there was one theater project that I might have had in there, but I'm kind of blanking on it. Maybe it'll come to me. But yeah, I've been just kind of grinding it out with TV and film.
that's awesome. So you've been real busy. That's always good.
Yeah, yeah, real busy, super super busy.
I know you had said you were working on this Netflix project, and the last time we talked, you couldn't say what it was. So you were able to say what it is now.
Yes, I'm able to say what it is now because we finished filming. So if anybody is listening from, from any of people that follow me, some of you might already know that I filmed for The Punisher
Oh, awesome! I watched that
for
show. That's a great show.
For Marvel. Yeah, yeah. So my role on The Punisher, it was small, but it was poignant because in my estimation, just because it was with it's with the main villain of the show.
Awesome.
Yeah. And whom I don't know if we can say his name.
Yeah, don't give it away,
I
but
don't want to give it away.
that's good enough that you told me
No
which
spoilers. I won't
which
spoil
show.
anything.
Yeah, so that must be
Yeah,
the
but
second season.
if you're familiar with the Punisher comics outside of the Marvel TV show or the Marvel Netflix show,
Yeah, I would know.
you'll know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
He's like the big bad of the Punisher,
yeah,
um,
the main
uh,
villain.
main villain. Yeah. So that's yeah that we filmed that back in June, and um that was really cool. That was a really cool set to be on. Everybody's super awesome.
So was that in
Um,
New York, or did you have to
yeah,
travel?
that was here in New York. Um, the most of the Marvel Netflix shows film out here in New York. So like Jessica Jones, Iron Fist,
Daredevil.
Daredevil
Yeah,
and Luke Cage. Even though they have since canceled, I believe, Iron Fist and Luke Cage.
yeah, that was
Um,
disappointing. I like both of those. That's too bad, but I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason is what I've been hearing is that they want to focus more on the defenders as a whole.
Oh, okay.
So they're gonna do I believe they're gonna do another season of the defenders.
Well, that's
But they'd rather do that than have like three or four different seasons of these different characters. They just want to keep it all in one place. Um, so I think I'm not sure if they're going to keep going with Daredevil or if they're going to keep going with Jessica Jones or keep going with the Punisher. But those are the three that people really like. So
yeah. I started with
we'll
Daredevil, and
see.
that was amazing. The guy who plays the Kingpin is unbelievable.
Oh yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah, oh, he's awesome.
I'm really glad that he's working. The most prominent role that I remember him in outside of Law and Order is when he I think he was in The Cell with Jennifer Lopez.
Oh yeah, I didn't even recognize him because in Law and Order, Criminal Intent, it was like he was like unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah, he was a good. But I think that Law and Order series was a little bit too abstract for people.
Yeah, I like his style. It was so weird. It was just different. He was odd. He just
Yeah, that's why it was very odd. It was it had more of like an HBO vibe,
yeah,
I
it was
feel,
yeah.
and it didn't have that mainstream like detective Stabler Benson.
I had this kind of like this like psychodrama thing going on. It was because of his character was so
Hmm.
deep. And I like the way he takes on roles. It's like really, yeah.
Yeah,
He's very expressive, and I like his style and the kind of
yeah,
sideways talking to the criminals in the box, and
Yeah.
they're just his trademark. There's no trademark things he would do. That just
Yeah, no, he's very much a method actor and very much a character actor.
yeah, you can kind of
So
get that.
that's why I really appreciate watching his performances, because they're always very nuanced and unique when you watch him work. So
It's like you were working on some independent film projects too, right?
yes, I was working on an independent film project. Quick question: can I travel outside of the app? Like, can I? I don't want to hang up because I wanted to look at the questions that someone asked me about the film.
Yeah, you should be able to do it. You just don't close it if you can.
Okay, I did it. I was afraid.
No, it
I was
should work.
afraid if I like got out of it, then it would like.
No,
Okay.
it'll work. You just got to get back to it.
Okay.
Just don't
Cool.
hit that red X.
Not hitting the red. It's like a phone. Okay, we got this, Jess. I'm kind of stupid when it comes to shit like this, but it's okay.
That's all right.
I'll get through it. Now the feature, it's a feature film that's an independent film. We shot that a little bit ago, just before fall really hit, and it's a thriller. And the director that I work with, Jay Palmieri, he is very much into the thriller, horror, psychological dramas.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of his films reflect that. And so the film that we worked on, which is called Play, featuring my co-star Michael Taviera, I probably fucked up your last name, Mike. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Because I know he might be listening. But that film was about. It was more of a psychological thriller, because a lot of Jay's films are very. They have a fantastical element, like either there's a witch or some kind of like demon or something very
supernatural mysticism,
supernatural mystic element. But it didn't have. This film is purely just set in modern time, with just people who are just a little fucked up, and so that was the film is pretty much about this guy who he's going through a lot of emotional hurdles with the loss of a loved one, and he seeks help to cope. And so through his coping, because he's a very different and strange individual, there's just a lot of strange things that happen while he's trying to cope with the death of this loved one. I don't want to spoil anything and give too much away,
really
but
awesome. So
it's a very there's a lot of like sadomasochistic elements in the film.
That's cool.
Because his character is very just tormented and just very kind of has a predilection for deviance.
So they're like dominatrix things, or just sadomasochists?
I would say that there might be a little bit of. I mean, I want to say that there's a little bit of the dominatrix element in there, or the sub dom quality in there. But the tables turn. It's not just one person being the dom all the time.
Oh, not an alpha. Not one alpha.
Right. So the plot of the story helps the characters switch roles.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very well written piece of work, and I love working with Jay. And
so is that going to have wide distribution?
Right now, we're working on our distribution. It's still in the editing process, and so we need to get it fully edited, and then we're gonna take it from there and see if maybe we can have it distributed. Either some of the discussions we've had have been maybe releasing it with Amazon, because they have a few.
Oh yeah, they have that new channel.
Yeah, so there's different channels that are available on these different streaming platforms that are making it so much so much more accessible for
Indie
filmmakers for
That's
their
awesome.
work to get seen. Yeah. So we might exhaust that. But, you know, we really just want the film to get seen. So working on, you know, having it seen in New York, because I think a lot of us a lot of us who have worked on the film, excuse me, we have connections here because we've worked so much in the film industry here. So we could probably get it screened somewhere. But as always, I let people know when that's happening.
So you bring it to like one of those festivals, like a Sundance or
yeah. I mean, Sundance would be great. Cannes would be great because I love Cannes or Cannes.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, but it's pretty much just working to get it, like you said, into festivals and screened at different theaters, different independent theaters that.
Oh, yeah, you guys probably have a lot more indie theaters in New York.
Yeah. We've got, unfortunately, the Sunshine Theater shut down, which was like a sister theater to the Angelica, which is a very well-known independent theater house. But we have the Angelica out here. We also have the Film Anthology Archives on the Lower East Side, which Jay has screened a few of his films. So we've got a good relationship with them. So it won't be hard to find someone to play the film because it's also very well shot. We had a very talented DP, David Quaitman, work with us, and it looks really good. So,
cool. So director of photography, right?
Yeah, our director of photography, cinematographer. Sorry, I speak in terms that not everybody knows offhand.
Well, musicians, we sometimes start to find out about stuff like that because we end up working on videos and things. So
like
we start to figure things out. We start to understand some of your acronyms.
yeah. It's just when you're working in film, it's like I think and it's nowhere near as intense and high stakes, but it's like you're on a black ops mission, you know, and you're military and everything needs to be like short, concise, so you can get in, get out, and get the job done.
For all those PS4, Xbox people who played Black Ops, they're like, oh wow,
yeah. I mean, it's just like you got the walkie-talkies, you got like everybody's name, you know, everybody's title, everybody's like doing double duty or whatever. It's just film sets are just very, very much about camaraderie. And I've worked on many a set, and I can really speak from experience about how if you do not have a good team, then it makes it harder, because film is hard no matter what. No matter if you have a good team or not, there's always going to be something that kind of goes fucked. So if you have a good team, the likelihood of you being able to at least scramble together and fix that fucked up thing is a lot higher than if you don't have a good team. So that's why I kind of relate it to like a military task force.
Yeah, you can say like a band. It has some of that because you got to have your roadies, you got to have your sound engineer.
Yeah.
You got to have the band themselves. If you're not a tight unit, where you start fighting amongst yourselves, it's like that's the whole thing. That's music.
And that just throws everybody off course. Everybody just gets So.
So I can relate in that way. I can try to relate.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you've been doing a lot of cool work.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of stuff. I still have a lot going on with my designs that's been going on.
I've seen a lot of Instagram postings of like different like runway, looking like photos of your
I did. Yeah, I did a recently. I did a couple presentations, if you will, of my brand, and one of the presentations was with a European television show. It's like of a late night TV host, a Georgian late night TV host. So that's going to be airing in Europe, I believe, sometime next month. I haven't got the official date of it, but some of the footage has been released, which I'm so busy right now, but I'm working on getting that footage on my Instagram so people can see it. And then if they have the capability to watch European television, I can forward you to where that's going to be happening. But
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that was a cool little thing that happened, and from there we got a lot of great photos. We had a great photographer on set that day.
So do you travel to Europe a lot? Do you ever get to
You
go there?
know, I have only been to Europe once, and that was 7 years ago. Um, it was not, it had nothing to do with my fashion or my acting. It was just me kind of backpacking by myself. So that I haven't been back since. But I would love to. I do coordinate with a lot of different like European artists and fashion bloggers and everything. So I try to stay connected so that when I do go visit, I can like go see these people and we can like coordinate.
Yeah, because the European
Collaborate.
scene for a lot of like indie musicians,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a better scene in some ways than the American
Yeah,
scene.
that's kind of how I feel too. I appreciate the European market because it's just for me it's more open. Like people are not so set in their
Yeah,
ways with
yeah, they're not
shit.
so stuck on lanes and genres
Yeah,
when it comes to music. Yeah,
yeah. They're kind of like whatever sounds good,
yeah, that's the
whatever
problem.
feels
Like,
good, whatever
yeah,
looks good. So
you think
whereas
about
like
it. Yeah,
Americans are very
yeah,
kind of
lane. They like to stay in
they're
the lane.
lame. Yes, they're very stuffy.
Because if you think about it, like American top 40 radio has been playing the same songs for the last 30 years.
Oh yeah, they play the same shit all the time.
And the thing is, like, you go to the BBC and they'll have punk and ska and hip hop and jazz and electronica.
Mm-hmm.
They mix it up, and so
Yeah,
they're willing to have new bands. A lot
yeah.
of new bands will break on the BBC
Mm-hmm.
and then come back here like Hendrix. Because Hendrix had to go to London to
Yeah,
get big. That shows you like what's wrong with the American market.
yeah.
you know.
That's it's so bad. And the thing is with American musicians, I think that they're kind of stifled as well. Like they're kind of stunted in their artistic growth and integrity because asked by their label to produce all of this like kind of poppy bullshit that they
Yeah.
probably don't want to,
Well,
but
there's a
they have to
problem
for their label.
in the music industry. There's like these key producers. Not that I
Mm-hmm.
like to put them down, but I'm like my own producer, and
Mm-hmm.
they like to replicate what's in the top 50
Yeah,
over and over again.
over and over. Yeah,
And then when
exactly.
there's something that doesn't fit that model, they're like, "Oh, we can't use it." And that's where all the innovation happens, and that's where YouTube and Facebook and SoundCloud and all these other places eventually artists come from SoundCloud and they get picked up, but they have to go through hoops, to finally get a big audience, and then the recognize they will say, "Oh, okay, that's new," and then they'll run that to death. They'll
Mm-hmm.
take what's new and then replicate it so much that they take all of the energy out of the music.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just it's like you've boiled it down to its most fundamental and you don't really have anything interesting anymore, to listen
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's always like.
totally
So
get
I
that.
appreciate like indie film and TV because it's the same kind of aesthetic that musicians have in the indie world because we're trying to do something that we're passionate about. We're trying to do something. We're trying to make a statement. I feel you're probably doing the same thing, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very similar nowadays with film and music or TV and music, because you have like all of these shows on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon, and it was really funny. I lately I've been doing a lot of modeling, and I had a meeting with this agency, and they're somewhat well known of an agency, and the guy sat me and another model down and was like, yeah, well, they're now TV shows, they really just want models, and it doesn't really matter if you're that good of an actor, as long as you're able to like regurgitate lines. It They could give a fuck about if you're like Johnny Depp or Meryl Streep. They really just want someone who's hot and who's fuckable.
wow.
And or perceivably fuckable, quote.
Yeah.
And so that was for me, being an actor, but who also models. That was just like, well, fuck, like.
Yeah.
I mean, good thing that I guess that I have the model quality to kind of help me get the roles that they're kind of trying to give to models.
Yeah. It must be
That
disappointing that they're not looking at your skill set. They're looking at like just like the window dressing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just that's where social media comes into play because that I've been kind of tailoring my social media in a way that it reads, a little bit more on the aesthetic tip.
Yeah.
um, because of that. I want to get booked. I want to work. Once I kind of jump off, I think um, I'll kind of go. I'll go back to posting random, crazy, dark, funny shit. But
Hmm.
right now, it's just like for work.
Well, you're trying to
It's
get,
like
yeah, you got to get work,
you gotta get work. And so I've been going back and forth in my mind about like, oh God, should I post this like weird dark thing that I like
that you really like, but like,
that I really like,
yeah,
but then it's just like, is this for work? Then, and also because it's for work, I spend a lot of time on my social media because that's where the work is.
so you find yourself maybe self-censoring certain things because you don't want to get
Yeah,
locked out or something.
but it feels like such an empty existence to just post like not random, but just like a modeling shot
Hmm.
after modeling shot after selfie after selfie.
Yeah.
It feels like I get exhausted with my fucking face. I just don't want to, but that's why I try to make my social media, or at least my Instagram, look interesting enough to where it's not just
Yeah, you got
gratuitous
a really
photos
good
of.
style. I mean, I like the way even when you're doing like when you're doing your modeling shots, it's not how other people do it. But
Yeah, I mean, I try not to get too wrapped up in like what other models are doing, or what other actors are doing, or what other like social media,
yeah.
prominent social media people are doing, because the reason they got to where they are is because they carved out a niche market for themselves.
Hmm.
And so that's been the 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 kind of momentum that I've been writing, is just trying to keep me and my integrity as an artist, actor, model, designer,
Yeah.
but also keep in mind that it is a business at the end of the day.
Well, you have to find a way to in your art to let you.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what I've been playing with this concept in my music. I have this kind of that comes from one of my songs. It's like you gotta, try to do something, but at the end of the day, whatever you're doing, you really have to let you be you. And once
Yeah.
you realize, but some people don't even know who they are.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that can be a struggle to get to that point where you're not mimicking, like in music, there's a lot of
Hmm.
mimicry and there's a lot of stuff that people are just trying to make hits
Yeah.
and so at the end of the day, like when you really find yourself is when you decide you're gonna let your art be what you want it to be,
Right. Yeah.
not
You
somebody
have to
else.
just keep up.
That's okay.
And I live in New York, people. There's
Yeah,
always a fucking ambulance. I hope everybody's okay though, but there's
yeah,
always that. No, yeah, I think artistic integrity is very hard to keep when you're trying to appeal to a mainstream audience.
yeah,
Because there's just very, again, there's the openness isn't as broad. I think when it comes to mainstream in America anyway. This has to be very cookie cutter, oftentimes very conservative. So it's a challenge, which is, it's good to have challenges in your work. But you want to make sure that those challenges are actually going to be something that benefits you in the long run. Like if you find a way to kind of meet the challenge of being, having your artistic integrity intact, but also being mainstream. Um,
yeah,
that but making sure that that's beneficial to you.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's a hard balance. And once in a while, you see like a band like REM.
yeah.
REM came from the indie college world, and they pretty much
Hmm.
stayed true to their original intent to write their own music. But when
Hmm.
they got on Warner's, they started to make poppier versions of what they did, but they still were within their own style, and so
Yeah.
they were able to be true to who they were,
Yeah.
and people kind of came to them. They got the audience to kind of like, oh, they got them to like their style of writing, and that's
Yeah.
always like the goal of any band, is to like be able to take what you did like at the college radio level and get people to actually get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, you have to know your audience, really.
Yeah.
And I think that's like with REM, if they being in the college scene, they knew what that age group wanted to hear, at least in in that community.
Yeah.
So it's really about your demographic and understanding analytics as it pertains to your field. But yeah, it's a very difficult, and even though like you want to be an artist and you don't want to think about the business side, which I think a lot of artists just like hate that part.
Yeah. That's why they
I'm
end up
starting to appreciate it
managers.
more. Yeah, I'm starting to appreciate it more just because it doesn't leave you so much room to be taken advantage of if you are the person in charge of your business. If you're leaving someone else in charge, then your artistic integrity is in jeopardy because that person might not have the same vision for you on a business level. And so then like you lose yourself if someone else is kind of taking the reins.
Yeah, that's
But
always the
if you
balance. Yeah, because I mean, I
yeah
find like a lot of bands have gone indie and
mm-hmm.
gone away from the labels, gone away from the managers, so that they would be what you're saying. They're directing themselves, and
Yeah.
it used to be that you had to depend on your tour manager and your business manager, our A&R guys to actually plan out what you're going to do, and then they would always tend to just burn out the artist.
Yeah.
And so like it's good to see that, like, so in film you're like your own manager most likely, like you probably have agents, right? But you have your own manager.
Yeah, I have an agent. Yeah.
So you don't have like a business manager running your stuff.
I have business consultants. I'll
Okay.
say that. I
Consultant,
don't
yeah.
have a formal business man. Like I have a lot of family members who are in financial marketing.
Oh, cool.
And they do a lot of, business consulting, and I just get advice from them.
Well, that's good.
And I kind of I
ground
use
people.
so I have some of that, and then I also do my own research, and it's kind of fun for me to like figure it out, because I didn't go to business school. I don't have a degree in any kind of marketing or any kind of like small entrepreneurship, so I'm learning this all just on my own, and through the experience, indirectly through experience of others, and then myself experiencing it with my career in design and film. So it's a lot of like my own work.
Yeah, I
But
think you find a lot of people who are very successful, they didn't actually have that background.
Yeah, and I think I respect that a lot, because that's a lot of your own work that you're doing.
Yeah.
That's a lot of having to kind of teach yourself. You're not in class learning from someone else. You kind of have to take the reins and like read and research and educate yourself. And I think that's a very admirable quality, I believe. Yeah. So
yeah, I think everybody's got to like know how to promote self-promotion.
Self-promotion is like it's a huge thing, man. It's such a big thing. and especially for people who are similar to me, who are very private about their life. Like I was talking to, she's a branding social media agent for like one of these, for a well-known bank. And she's a connection that my aunt got me. So I had like a conference with her, and a lot of the advice she was giving me was on a very conservative level. Like, don't post this kind of thing, or like look at the tags that you're using, and stuff like that. So I mean, being in a completely different field. I mean, she's doing social media marketing for a bank, so they're obviously
banks and insurance companies don't like to take risks.
Yeah, in certain aspects, yeah. So I was just like that. A lot of the information that she was giving me, although it was
Yeah.
it was valid, but it wasn't so much valid for
Not for
my,
an artist. I think the
not for
people,
my, for an
yeah,
artist or in
yeah. I think
marketing for
sometimes people
me.
like that, they don't realize like artists are more willing to take risks. Artists,
Right, like I can, like, yeah, you can be a little bit more free and open with the content that you have because that's your field.
yeah, you're not
So,
selling a
and
widget.
like I understood where she was coming from, but like, but being the person that is at the forefront of your business,
Yeah.
you have to take everything with a grain of salt and know what to
Yeah.
use and what to listen to and what not.
Yeah, knowing when
So,
you're, yeah, I mean, it's a different type of thing. If you're selling a commercial product, you don't want to offend people because you want those people to be your customer. So then you have to like do things that don't offend people, and that keeps you in a box. It keeps you in a box. But if you're an artist,
yeah, so it's just,
and you can be like Bowie, you can be like Prince, you can be like the Sex Pistols, and you can kind of say, "Hey, I'm gonna do my art," and if I knock out one audience, well, I gain a different audience, and so like it's not
yeah,
gonna appeal to everybody.
yeah, one door closes,
Yeah,
another one
just because you
opens
don't
type
get
deal.
people in Wisconsin that like you doesn't mean you don't have people in LA that love you.
Right, yeah, exactly. You just have to be, I think a lot of it is, as an artist, just understanding that you're liked by everybody. Like,
Yeah,
some
you don't
people are
have to be
going
liked
to
by
fucking
everybody
hate
to,
you.
yeah, to get your niche. You don't have to go and make everything like vanilla just to get
Yeah,
sales.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
there's some bands that don't
but
want to
there has
be.
to
Yeah,
be,
you don't want to be
yeah,
top 10. I mean, sometimes
yeah.
you're willing to say, if I hit the top 50, that's a win. If I hit the top
Mhm.
200, that's a win. I don't have to be,
Mhm.
because you know your market, you know your niche, you know what you can survive at. It's good if you can get there, but you don't want to get rid of your artistic integrity or what you're trying to say, just to
Yeah.
get to a certain place. I mean, some people are willing to go there just because they want that, and that's their
Mhm.
goal, But there's other people that
Yeah.
want to make a statement, and yeah,
They just want to make pure art, or like just, authentic art that speaks to their experience or whatever message they're trying to convey.
yeah. Because
So,
anytime you say something, there's gonna be somebody who doesn't like it, and so
yeah, no, they're true, totally true. Totally true.
yes, so you
Do you
can't be
mind if
scared to stand it.
can I answer one of these questions that
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
I put a
yeah,
thing out on Instagram
yeah.
just to see if people
Start
would
pulling
actually
the questions
participate.
out. Yeah, if you got bunch of
Yeah.
questions, bring them out.
So one of my friends, Elizabeth, she wanted to know, she said, can you talk about why you chose gluten-free? I have mood problems and I heard it helps. I don't know how much having a gluten-free diet will help change your mood.
Yeah,
But I do know that it's very much a possibility that it could help, because I think what you put in your body does affect your chemical balance.
yeah. Well, if you feel better,
So,
if it makes your body feel better, then your mood might be better because you're not feeling bad.
right, yeah, and a lot of the time when you're eating heavy foods, you just feel very kind of
You get lethargic. You
what's
get
yeah, you
tired.
get lethargic, you just feel very kind of slow, and just not as pumped and
Yeah,
energized.
I
So I
believe
think,
that.
like,
I believe if you eat certain
yeah, so
foods, it will definitely make your mood
if
better
you
because
better if you have a lot of, yeah, if you have a lot of carbs, or like a lot of bread or a lot of sugar, it's going to weigh you down and it's going to make you feel more sluggish.
it's kind
And
of like at
if you,
Thanksgiving, people get the itis.
yeah, yeah, of course, I get, good meal will cause the itis. You just have to, what I like to do is, I mean, the reason I've chosen to go gluten-free is because I've got chronic yeast issues, and that's due to, I take antibiotics almost every day.
Oh yeah,
And
because
yeah, because for those of you who don't know, I have cystic fibrosis, which is a lung disease, and in order to combat lung infections, I have to take antibiotics pretty much for the rest of my life. So what the antibiotics do is, it does kill the bad bacteria, but it also kills
good.
the good
Oh yeah, they're
bacteria.
lucky make you
And
susceptible.
that is right, and that's why the yeast infections. God, this is probably like TMI. Everybody knows I have a fucking yeast infection, but But that is why I choose gluten-free, because it
Doesn't have
just
it.
helps to,
Yeah.
it helps to moderate that.
Yeah, that's
You
a
know,
good
it helps
idea.
to keep that in check. And then also, my body does have trouble digesting anything that's high fat, which is why I have to take certain medications to help digest fat. So if I can mediate my caloric intake, or my my gluten intake, by not having such a high gluten diet, I'm gonna do that. So that's why I do the thing I do with the gluten.
I think that's a good. I think well, I'm a diabetic, so I have to watch carbs. I have to watch sugar. I have to watch fats because they got the same kind of problem with heart disease. So a lot, diabetics have to be careful what they eat, and there is a big difference. When you lower your carbo and your sugar levels, you do get more. You feel more active.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And what I try to do also is I just drink a lot of water. I think water and tea really flushes the system, and it helps to just keep you clear. So that's why I like to just drink tons and tons of water.
Yeah, water is a good thing. Soda not so much. He's trying to get Americans to stop the soda.
So my soda is kombucha, because it's just as carbonated, but it's
also better
accessible.
for you.
It's better for you. It's carbonated. It's flavorful. If you like the flavor of kombucha, it's very similar. But it actually, it's a probiotic too. It works as a probiotic, so it's actually cleaning you out and kind of balancing you. So
I have a homeopathic doctor who told me about that. So.
Oh, okay, good. Good.
That's awesome.
Not everybody does that. But I guess to segue, someone asked me, how do you keep in shape? How do you keep in shape? What do you do anything in particular?
I was a big cyclist. So, but as I got older, now I'm like 51. So, disclosure, as you get older, you start to get like arthritis. So now I have an indoor cycling machine. I have a NordicTrack, and I'm in New Hampshire, so we get a lot of snow. So when I can't go on the road, I have an indoor, like a Peloton type of thing, and then I've got my NordicTrack and like a stepper.
What's a NordicTrack?
NordicTrack is like an indoor cross-country skiing machine. So it basically has like little skis, wooden skis you go on, and you just like it's the same motion that you do. I mean, it actually has these wooden skis on the machine, and you.
So it's the same concept of an elliptical, but it's like a ski.
Yeah, it's a ski
elliptical.
It's a ski elliptical. Yeah, so it's the same exercise you do doing cross country. And if you do it for like 45 minutes, it's actually a good workout.
When you said NordicTrack, I automatically referenced Eminem had that recently had that song come out where he's dissing MGK, Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah.
Which is like you know the feud that happened, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he says he has a line that says NordicTrack, and I was like, what the fuck is a NordicTrack? And then you just said that.
Oh, so you didn't know what it was.
No, I just didn't have. I was just like, I don't care enough to look this up. So I'm glad that you told me.
Yeah.
I don't know how relevant that is to my life, and if Eminem's using it, how much use am I gonna get out of it?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you learn something every day.
You do, and I love to learn, because I could stand to take in more knowledge. But I mean, I run every day. And I'm really working on running twice a day. So about right now, it's because I'm just getting really back into hardcore workout regimen. I'm only doing about an hour of running in the morning, and then like maybe an hour of running in the evening if I can. And then I do yoga about twice a week.
Cool. So you do an indoor run facility? Like indoor facility?
No, I used to be a trainer. I used to work at a gym.
Mm-hmm.
So, in summary, I hate the fucking gym. So if I can work out, in my own little space outside of the gym, or if I can work out outside, I'd much rather do that. It's harder to do on the East Coast when it's wintertime because it's frigid.
Yeah. But you actually
But
go out and run a park or something?
yeah, I mean, I have like a little a little park around that has a track. It's got not a track so much as it is it's a baseball diamond
Oh, cool. So you
with
can
a
run
little
around
track
there.
around it.
Oh, so you can run.
So I can just so I can run, I used to run track in school, so it's like very familiar for my body to just run in circles like a hamster. So I run, and then I have my stretching regimen that I do before I run and after I run, just so that I'm keeping myself limber and I'm not getting too tight, so that I don't pull anything. And then I also I try to just do really getting back into doing my my martial arts. So I try to implement some of my martial art and when I work out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Do Tai Chi at all as part of your workout?
My grandmother does Tai Chi, and she is 87 years old. She turned 87 last month on the 31st. She was born on Halloween.
Wow.
But she does Tai Chi, and I when I lived closer to her, because they live back in Oregon, I would do Tai Chi with her. So yeah, it's very relaxing, very meditative, and it's good. It's a good muscle conditioning, I think. Just to that's not too strenuous. It's very relaxing.
Yeah.
Maybe muscle conditioning is not the right term to use, but
yeah,
it's helpful.
Yeah, because like just
helpful.
I used to live in Japan for a couple of years for my my day job, but I'm a tech guy, but when I lived there, you walk outside of my apartment, and I lived in Tokyo actually, and you could walk into these parks and see all these older people, Japanese folks, doing Tai Chi in the morning. And it would just be awesome to you walk into this very high tech city, and then they'd have these Shinto temples where everybody's doing Tai Chi, and the temples are awesome. Interspersed through the whole city, and so you'd have these awesome old trees and Buddhist or Shinto, Japanese Shinto statues and different things, and then they'd all be doing Tai Chi, and it would make me feel. It made me feel good.
No, that's great. I wish that they had that here. I mean, I feel like the yoga, we have yoga to the people, which is it's based on contribution, and so you can go and do yoga for essentially free or a very low amount. But I wish that they had more things like that they do in Japan, where you can just go and kind of meditate and exercise. Because I think that really helps people's moods.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's a lot, I think, to be said for a society that helps each other on a physical level. And I don't think that we do that so much here in America. Everybody's pretty much tense and angry and depressed.
Yeah, drinking too much coffee, eating too many donuts.
Too much coffee, too much sugar.
Getting mad.
I don't drink coffee. I drink tea because I just it just feels a lot healthier for my body, and I don't feel like I'm gonna kill someone.
Yeah. Where you get the rat race,
yeah. I just
doesn't
be
help.
Cool, just chill. It doesn't really help. It doesn't help at all.
So do you have any more questions that you got?
Yeah. Okay. So one of the questions I got was, let's go here. What is your favorite role you've played to date?
Well, that's a good one.
So my favorite role as of now, it's hard to pick a favorite because they're all so different. So it's like I try not to play in my life as just a mantra for myself. I try not to favorite anything because I feel like that, I don't know, I just, it kind of, for me, it doesn't, it invalidates other just unique qualities of another thing. I hate the whole better than less than scale, and I think that's what favoritism does.
Yeah, definitely.
But I would say one of the roles I very much enjoyed playing was the film that I mentioned earlier with the director Jay Palmieri, called Play, where my character is, she's someone that you would consider having just very severe emotional uh, problems. And she, because of those emotional problems, she's manipulated into being this character for her for her boss, pretty much. And she goes in and she can play different characters but not know who she really is at the core. And so I really enjoyed that because it allowed me to play like at least 4 different people in one movie.
Awesome.
So it's really nice to do that because then I can like, my brain can just like switch and jump and assess this new challenge of, okay, well, she's now this character, and what does that look like, as opposed to the character that she was playing a few minutes ago. What's the dynamic here with her and this person now that she's playing a different character? Character dynamics are always so fun for me, and then I have to remember like I'm a human, and I can't like I can't I can't be in a scene with people in life because not everybody does my job.
Yeah.
And so it's just like when I have my actor brain on, I have to be like, okay, your actor brain is on, turn it off because you're just at the grocery store. Calm down.
Yeah. So it's
So
hard to
it's
get
just,
out of that character sometimes, like when you're working on a project and you do try to do like when
yeah.
grocery
I mean,
store, you gotta turn off the actor.
right. Yeah. For me, it's, I don't want to say that it's just like I'm this crazy actor that just lives in the character, but that's kind of how it is for me sometimes. That's actually another question I got was, do you keep personality traits of your characters with you when you are finished? Um, and I certain sometimes I do. A lot of the characters that I play, I tend to have some semblance of them already as a person. I just bring them out even more as the character. And I make it a lot more, a lot louder, a lot bigger, maybe a lot more obnoxious because it's a film, it's a movie, and characterization is often supposed to be big so people can understand it and read it.
Mm-hmm.
So some of these character traits, I have them, but they're not as prominent, um, because for film you have to be a character. Um, Sometimes I do walk away with a little bit of the character with me, and then I have to shred it. I have to shed it, rather shed that character trait because it doesn't serve me as an actor. And I've been in situations where there have been people that kind of see that that's happening, and sometimes there's the it's not a good situation to be in when you take on certain character traits and then someone else who can see that you're doing that takes advantage
Oh,
of you.
yeah, that's not good.
And they like, if like I was playing a vulnerable character for one of my directors, and she completely kind of saw me as that character. And I was just like, well, I'm glad that I'm glad that the performance is reading for you, but you have to understand that I'm not the
Yeah,
character.
that's not me.
And I think when it's not you. And I don't know how much of that was just her refusing to see me because she really enjoyed me playing the character, if that's who she actually thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the danger that you can get into as an actor, is if you really thrust yourself into a character and then it's really felt by people around you or your audience or people that you work with. The caution of it being confusing for them to who you are as a person. So that's whenever I talk about like what my method is, I try to stay out of being a hardcore method actor,
Yeah,
because then people will just see you as that.
yeah,
And then when you take the character off, they only know how to respond and react and interact with you as the character that you've been. And then you have to kind of reset everyone and be like, no, this is me now. I'm Jess. I'm no longer, Trixie or whatever.
But I think a lot of musicians ran into that trap. Famous musicians, like Keith Moon from the Who. He got trapped into this kind of clown thing. They just kept on feeding into, and it just like took him out because he was just like he couldn't be himself. He was like always on stage. He was always taking Rolls Royce and driving into a swimming pool, destroying a hotel room just because people felt he felt like the fans wanted him to be that. And then there's a lot of rock stars that fell into that more in the 70s, but it's easy to fall into stuff when you're a musician because you get kind of high from the crowd, and it's hard to get when you get off that stage. You feel kind of invincible. You can be reckless. You can, because you just have all this energy and just feeding off. And if you don't know how to dissipate it or turn it off, then you can go the wrong way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's very much something that people feel now on more because of social media. And you're expected to look a certain way and act a certain way. So, being on stage is like your social media page.
Yeah.
And it's Facebook, like
YouTubers can fall into that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're on YouTube and you have a certain persona that you're doing every week or however long, people just see that, and so they associate that with how you are in all aspects of life, and that's not necessarily true. I mean, I think you're allowed to have different personas that interact with different audiences. I think that's totally allowed. I don't think that that's people being crazy or whatever. It's just like I talk a different way to my mom than I would talk to like a good friend, and it's the same way with someone who's a YouTuber, a musician, or an actor. It's like I act for my audience, and then I have a different persona for me as a human being going to get coffee or going to a restaurant or going on a date. And I think that people, because they're so entertained by these personas, they can't really allow for the person to be a full human being, because then it would shatter whatever preconceived notion they have of this character. And then they would be like, oh, I don't want to follow them anymore because they did something that was out of character with what I associate them with. So it's very hard, and for me and my experience with this is, a lot of people have painted me as this like, oh, she's really open and she's really badass and she's like really sexy and very, very much open with her body. And so I get a lot of people that are very forward with me in terms of like,
they picked up that they think that's you.
Yeah, I mean, they think that I don't know what it is that they're thinking, but I understand where it's coming from. And it's not so much like, oh, fuck that person, they think this way. It's more like me needing to understand I don't need to play the character that they think I should be playing. Just because I act this way or because I posted this thing. And I think that's probably what he was going with the character he's playing with the Who. Is that he felt the need to appease the audience because of the preconceived notion they had of him and this character. And I think that's where I think you have to take control as an artist and just be like, no, yes, I do like to wear this kind of clothing, but it does not mean I am this thing. And I think people do that in general too, is like a woman walking down the street just because she's got really revealing clothes on. Obviously you have to treat her a certain way or differently, which I really fucking hate. And that's just not allowing an individual to be an individual. You're trying to control someone at that point by projecting onto them.
Consent because of your fashion. It is like, if you choose to have a certain style of fashion, it doesn't mean that you're consenting to whatever person perceives that represents. And you're an artist. What the people forget is like, people use fashion as art, and there are people who are like kind of artists in that way, in the way they dress, and if that's their personality, doesn't mean they're giving consent to anybody to like.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people just, they don't automatically go there. in their minds, they don't really have that association. They just automatically are like, well, this is how you interact with someone who looks like this.
Yeah.
And that's not right. You need to allow people to be themselves before you judge and assume how they're going to be.
Yeah, I think the problem is a lot of social mores have kind of trained individuals in our society to perceive things at a very base level.
Yeah.
And the sophistication to think in a better way is not usually there in everybody.
No, it's not. It's not.
And so the risk, when you're an artist or a person that expresses yourself in a non-traditional way, you get people that perceive things. And because I play characters in my music, I play female characters, I play male characters. I use my technology to do that. And I get people who assume certain things when I play my character Josephine Electric. They make all these assumptions about me and they don't know me, And so I get people who think like, well, I must be like Josephine, that must be who I am. It's like, no, that's a character I created.
Right. Yeah. And I get to play this character for the duration of the song or however many songs that I'm doing. It doesn't mean I live as this character.
Yeah. And some people just don't get that,
Yeah. They don't see that that there's a dissension.
Yeah.
After you're done with the character with the song or album or whatever. Yeah.
So I think when musicians go and do that and they go and create personas in their music, Lou Reed did the Transformer album, Bowie, I always go back to Bowie, he's doing Aladdin Sane, he's doing Ziggy. You created these characters, Thin White Duke, but they were all like, he was very, very theatrical. And so you didn't really know like which one of those is really Bowie. You don't know,
Yeah. And that's okay because, it's okay to have a private self that you have for yourself and the people that are closest to you. I don't think that there has to be a point where you need to reveal all.
Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, that's
unless you want to. Yeah, it's totally up to your discretion as an artist how much you want people in your community and your audience to know about you. So I and again, because I'm a particularly private person when it comes to certain things, I've had to kind of find the balance with that and find the boundary with it. And understand that I don't need, just because someone wants this information from me doesn't mean I need to give it.
Yeah, I think having those boundaries, like, especially with social media today, because people can be really obnoxious on social media,
Yeah.
Like your fans can get really entitled. They start to feel really entitled and they start to think they know you. And I mean, musicians run into this a lot when we get people who are, I'll play actors do too, but they get the people like stalkers, like, they show up at the shows and they think they know you. And they think they're like, it's nice that you're a family. Like, you don't really know.
Right. Yeah. It's such a terrible, like, social media has really fucked that up too, because you're actually, whereas like on stage, there's a physical distance there. Whereas social media, you have to create that boundary and that distance. It's not just created for you because you're on a stage.
Yeah, you don't have like a bouncer, roadie.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
people have more access to you on social media.
Yeah.
And you have to really hardcore set that boundary. And I'm finding that I have to do that so often with people. It's just like, I appreciate you coming and supporting me, but no, I don't want to fuck you. No, I don't want to go on a date with you. No, I'm not interested in dominating you. There's just a lot of having to set the boundary with people that you interact with on social media who you don't know. And it depends on how they approach you too, because I'm sure there are people that are on social media or that are musicians who get to perform on stage who interact with their fans.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guy. I mean, that's been a big thing in music, the groupie syndrome, and the whole idea. Like, some guys get, people get into music so they can do that. That's
because there's yeah. Well, there's some kind of insecurity in them that says I can only have this thing if I am a
Yeah.
musician, if I am famous, if I am
Yeah.
this. And so their whole validation as a human being solely rests in their art, which is so dangerous.
That's very
And
dangerous.
that's not healthy at all, because then it's just like, well, what happens if you don't have your art? You
Yeah.
know,
I
if
mean,
you
'cause-
don't
yeah.
have, if you're a musician and you don't have your hands,
Well, the
and you
problem
can't
is
play
like
your
your
instrument.
whole, if you play that game like what Moon was doing, is like you play that game your
Mhm.
whole life, all your connections are because you create this madman. There's like British
Mhm.
madman characters, clown. And that's how you get all your interaction. That's how you get all your attention. And you
Mhm.
never turn it off, because if you turn it off, nobody wants to talk to you, because you're really a shy person that's not that interesting. If you don't do that, you know, maybe not interesting to people at the level you are when you're playing the crazy man. And
Mhm.
maybe you could have a more personal relationship and be more honest if you would just go back to who you were when you were like 17. But you know, there's a point where some of these people, they just like, they keep on feeding off of that, and it usually ends bad.
Yeah, no, it's a terrible place to be, because you're not actually you're letting other people determine your worth.
Yeah. Well, it's usually because you're insecure. I mean, a lot of musicians
Yeah.
I've met are unbelievable, but when you get past all the stagecraft and all the stuff they put up, they're very shy. They're very
Oh yeah, no,
introverted.
they're shy, and but the reason that people don't understand that is because the persona that they have is not shy.
Yeah, it's like the total opposite. I mean,
it's total opposite. Yeah, I believe me, I know. I've had very direct experience with some musicians who I will not name.
Yeah, I don't like to put them. I like to put everybody
But
down. You know, I got the same traits. You know, I'm being honest.
I understand. And the thing is, I don't judge them for that.
Yeah.
It's just, it kind of breaks my heart that there are artists out there who they only feel validated through their art, and they don't understand how to be valid just as a person, and look at the good qualities they have as a human being. And that just kind of,
Yeah,
you know,
it's usually
that's
kind of sad when you get past, when you get into a lot of the artists, you know, that you get into, like you figure out, you find out their story after you see what they do on stage, and it's usually like, you know, bring you to tears, because a lot of times it's like, they're not having a good life, they're not having a good time, you know. And
no, and there's all these assumptions about them, and they get attacked because of their persona, you know. And so I really, you know, I that's why for me, I have to sit back and understand where my validation as a person comes from, and as an artist comes from, you know. And it's difficult, but you just have to know that your self-worth as a person does not rely on the validation of others because of your craft.
yeah,
You know, you're going to be a good person regardless of whether you're the best at musician in your field, or best actor in your field, or best artist in your field. And a lot of that comes from just that security in yourself, and you have to really maintain that and nurture that. And I don't think a lot of artists are taught really how to nurture themselves outside of their artist self.
Yeah, it's like the machine. It makes it hard, because every artist gets into it because they love the art, they love the music, and then they get on the machine, and it kind of makes it hard. Like, so if you're an artist that hasn't broken through, and you've not, I have the luxury. I'm an indie artist, you know, maybe 100,000 fans, and but you know, I don't make massive amounts of money, so I don't have that overhead. I can just do what I want, and it doesn't go to my head.
Yeah.
But you know, if you break through, then it can kind of get into your head.
It can really get to you. It can really get to you, because you have all of this validation from people that you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's just, again, that just makes it so dangerous.
Yeah, what you want sometimes, you know, as an artist is not exactly. It's kind of like that old blues thing. You got the crossroads when they go one way or the other. It's like old classic blues. Like you can, you know, sell your soul to the devil to get popular. I mean, it's a common blues theme.
Yeah,
and it really
yeah.
is true.
No, it is very much true. It's very much true. It's like you're sacrificing a part of yourself.
Yeah, there's a
Um,
point where you make that decision, and then it causes like you more harm than success. But so the
mhm,
world might see that you got successful and you do become, what you became, but there's a price for it.
yeah. No, there's always a price, but I think the one thing that I've maintained is I always thought that I'd have to sacrifice. Oh, I can't have, certain things if I really want my career to do well. And that's bullshit.
Yeah.
You can have whatever the fuck you want to have. You just have to understand how to have all those things,
Hmm.
and what avenues you need to take to get them. Sometimes there's going to be a time where you can't do this when you're doing that, but it doesn't mean that it'll never happen to where you can do both. You just haven't gotten to the point where you can have both.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that they're never going to exclusively exist together. And so I've had to monitor that for myself and understand, no, you can have a thriving relationship and be a great successful artist in the fields that you've chosen. You can have a family. You can have a good social life with your friends. You don't need to just be this workaholic artist. Now, granted, my friends will tell you that I pretty much just work all the fucking time and they have to drag me out of my work cave to do fun things.
Hmm.
But I still work very hard to maintain some kind of balance in my life when it comes to working and the personas that I have to, present to the world because of my careers, and then be with my friends and my family, and understand that it's okay to have all of these things, and have them coordinate with each other. You just have to, know that you can do that, be secure in yourself that you can do that, and then find the people that are going to be on your level to do that and understand, that's the hard part of life, is finding those people.
Yeah, it's the balance and knowing, you know, really having the people in your corner. That the really critical
Mm-hmm.
thing, because sometimes people don't have the judgment,
Yeah.
to pick the right people in their corner.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
true. But it's a learning experience. Like, you're not gonna be right the first time around.
yeah, you gotta go
So
through
there's
it.
you have to go through the motions and sometimes take that risk and it not work out, so you can understand who to accept and who to exclude from your circle. And I've definitely had to learn that, and it's been a great thing for me because sometimes they just naturally peel out of my life, and then after the fact I realize, oh, that's good that they're no longer there. um, but you sometimes have to really put that boundary and excommunicate someone of your own volition. They don't just leave because they're bad. You have to, like, push people out who are not serving you
Yeah,
in the way that, not serving you because they're there to serve you, but just not bringing anything positive or enlightening or constructively critical to your life. um so that's kind of where I am with that, is like, you just have to take a risk and then assess after, and figure that out.
yeah.
um
I had one thing that happened. As musicians, you collaborate with people. You find people that sometimes you think are like your musical soulmate, and you can get really attached and you get really connected, and you think like you got to work with this person like forever because like you're really clicking, and then you realize that's not actually the way you thought. You thought that we were both kind of really into it, but sometimes like one person's
mhm.
more into it than the other person.
Yeah.
And then it ends up being, a situation where, if somebody doesn't actually, when you're musicians and you're really getting the vibe and you feel like, oh, this is a really good unit, this is a really good team, but then the other person really doesn't take it that way. And then you're like, the hardest thing in the world I ever had to do was like, I had to let something go that I really wanted, but I felt like it
Mhm.
wasn't going to be positive for me going forward in my musical career. Even though I had this
Mhm.
kind of feeling that I really should hold on to it, I had to kind of let it go because I felt it really wasn't going to
Oh yeah.
move me forward.
I had this conversation the other day, and I've been having it kind of reoccurringly, for the past like couple weeks, months now, is I've been saying no to a lot of things lately. And then the beginning of my career as an actor and as a model, I was saying yes to everything because you're inexperienced and you want to get experience and you want to you want to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm at a point in my career where I don't need to say yes to every fucking thing. And I've learned that, and it's not, and I used to think, oh, if I don't say yes, that's me being arrogant and thinking I'm better than. And no, it's not. It's understanding where you want to go and what that path kind of looks like for you. You're not going to know what path that is, but you do have to be active, proactive in figuring out what that path is going to look like. And the art of saying yes is knowing when to say no.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree
Because
with that.
you need to know when to say yes to the right thing. And that's the thing that's the best way to say yes. That's the best time to say yes, is when it's the right yes. Not just saying yes to everything and hoping that the right yes comes along. No, you have to navigate. You've got to be strategic with your yeses and your nos so you can get to the one thing that's going to really be, prominent for you for your career. So like recently I've had to say no to a film. I had to say no to a theater project. I had to say no to a design opportunity because these were things that were not matching the level that I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for you, and like I said, for a long time, I thought that was an arrogance of mine. And again, it's not. You have to, if you want to be on a certain level, you can't keep doing the level below.
Yeah.
You have to raise yourself. So you have to know, hey, this isn't really worth me anymore. It was, and when it was, I learned from it and it helped me, but it's no longer that way. And so I've since learned that that's where those are the kinds of decisions I've had to make now. And it's been a lot of no's, even though I'm working a lot, pretty much on personal projects. It's nice to say no to things that are work but aren't work that I need, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good feeling when you feel like you're, secure enough to not feel like you're losing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my mom about this. I was like, my ego really doesn't need that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to do a play that or a role that I know that I would kick ass in. If I know that the role is not going to really get me
Like I'm
far
forward. Yeah.
Yeah, like I love being on stage. I love people responding to the characters I play, but um I my I'd rather move my career along than stroke my ego in the short term.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I
get that.
nobody really. I don't think that it really serves you as an artist to do short term things and then forget about the long term aspirations that you have. And you have, like I said, you have to really identify what those things are. So
Yeah, I mean, sometimes musicians, we get opportunities where people will say they want you to do like a copy of a Drake song, or they want you to do a clone of this, or they want you to collab on a song. And you listen to the song, they give it to you, and you're like, okay, but it's not really clicking with me. And there's some guys who just want to get everything out. If they get an opportunity to put it out in the music, and you're just gonna work on it, they do the work. But if you but if you listen to it and you're like, that really isn't moving my music forward the way I like what I'm trying to do. And so it's the same idea. You're like, I'm not gonna, just because I got like 10 offers to work on like EDM tracks, but I've only like one of them. I should only do the one I like. I shouldn't do all 10.
But that's the thing, is you have to understand where your energy is going to be most useful for you.
Yeah.
And that's always the challenge of every artist or every person in general. Whatever job you have to understand where you want to put your creative energy or your work ethic, where that's going to shine the brightest, you know.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. I think when you're younger, it's harder for you to make those decisions. As you get older, you start to, you live and you learn from your mistakes. You learn, if you're honest with yourself, you admit when you made a mistake, and you admit like how you're going to do better. How you progress when you admit that you actually, messed up.
Yeah.
It's like if there's something better you can do. It's like, in my IT job, we have these things. We have lessons learned, and we look at a program we built and we look at all the bugs and we say, why do we have these bugs? Because we did this wrong, and we really are self-critical on what we did wrong. And that's how we progress, in technology. It's because you have to be honest about what didn't work. And you can kind of apply that to life, in a way, because you have to be really honest about like, okay, that totally didn't work, and like why, and then really start analyzing it.
Yeah, no, I think everything is an analytical process. I think when it comes to art, I think even more so. I think, well, maybe now because you have to be like your own promoter, so you have to figure out what works. But I think I think you really do need to pay attention to just the process, and then what kind of result that process is gonna actually reap.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
Okay, you have any more questions, or are we getting near to?
Yeah, I've got two more. When did you know you wanted to act? I knew I wanted to act much later in life than people normally say, like, oh, I wanted to act when I was like 4 or 5. I had no concept of what the fuck acting was when I was that age. When you're a child, you don't know what acting is. You just know that you're having fun. And there was no like, oh my God, Mom, I see you on TV. That's what I want to do. It's more like, oh, Bambi. I love Bambi. I want to be like Bambi. And that was actually, it's a true to life story. When I was like 3 years old, I would get on all fours and I would crawl around the house saying mother. And the scene where Bambi's mom gets shot by the hunter.
Oh yeah.
That scene really hit. That hit for me. And so when I was a kid, that's the scene that I would just reenact constantly. And it drove my mother fucking crazy. And she was just like, I don't know what to do with you. I'm right here. Stop it. And she couldn't shake me out of it. And so she likes to say that's when she knew I needed.
She saw that.
Right. But I could get, like, when I was a kid, I didn't really want to do theater. I didn't want to be on stage. I didn't want to be in film. I actually wanted to go to school for law.
Lawyer.
Yeah. And then I was just like, that's a boring existence. And lawyers are kind of terrible sometimes. So that's probably not something I want to do. But but it goes back to like when I get into a character, I trap myself. Like I couldn't even shake myself out of the Bambi thing. I was 3, but I still, but I didn't really know until I was, I think I was in high school, and I think my mom was like, do a theater course, just do it. Just, she's like, just try it, go and do this thing. So I went and did it, and I got a really good feedback from my theater instructor, and from there I kind of just took off, and I went and started acting in my community college productions, and I took theater courses in community college, and then of my own accord, I went out and found auditions in film and independent theater. And then I auditioned for Tish's NYU or NYU's Tisch School of Drama, but I didn't get in. But I just decided to keep going, even though I hadn't gotten in. So that's kind of where my acting career started.
Well, you had the drive. Some people they know, what they want. They just feel it, and they. It's kind of like it's just like like your path is chosen for you for some reason. Like it's like in you, that you're gonna be an actor, you're gonna be a musician, you're gonna be a scientist. Sometimes it's like the bug is like in you. I mean, it's something in you that just pulls you that way.
Yeah. And that's something that it took me a while to identify that that's what that was, because I wasn't sure if it was, like, oh, I want to be a lawyer. Oh, I also want to work for the CIA. That would be a cool job. Oh, I also want to be a doctor. And then it kind of helped me find out, oh, you just want to portray these things.
Oh.
You want to portray being in the CIA, being a doctor, being.
Now you get to be like everything.
Now I get to, I had all of these like different, because I'm so interested in life and different pursuits of life and expressions of life. So I had to really understand that no, you don't really want to be a surgeon and stuck in a hospital for 12 hours, but you'll do it for a movie. Like you'll find like a really cool character that is a doctor that has all of these like different quirks or whatever, and you'll do that, and you'll learn a lot about being a doctor, but you won't actually have to go through with being
that's actually like a really cool way to look at it.
I mean, it's very much a jack of all trades, master of none type job, being an actor.
Well, that's kind of it, because one of the big, negatives about having to have those other careers is like, the measurement tools and having to go through the reviews and, the fact that you could, as an actor, you can choose to play that character. You don't have the responsibility of actually having to do the job.
Yeah, and that's another thing, because it's just, and I think that's why a lot of actors are very like, I think a lot of actors are political and they have these goodwill ambassador titles, or they're ambassadors for the UN or whatever. And I think it's because they feel like even though they're great at their craft, they want to give back and they don't want to just portray something in a superficial way, and it's not, and that have no meaning. And I think that's why a lot of actors have like this dual the dual interests of acting and other things that they do.
They do a lot of charity work. They do a lot of
a lot of them are philanthropists, and I think a lot of it speaks to them wanting to have another craft that they find valid in helping people, and that isn't just pretend.
Because actually you want to have something meaningful that actually affects people beyond your art. So your art will affect people and inspire people, but the world measures stuff. If you work for UNICEF or you work for the UN or you do some kind of program to help the homeless, it's going to have a direct effect. Maybe not like the indirect effect that your art can have.
I think it's all about the how effective people are going to be, and what way. Is this going to be something that's going to put food on the table if that's what they're struggling with? Is it going to clothe them? Is it going to put a roof over their head? Are they going to be somewhat out of the third world situation that they might be in, if that is where that actor wants to put their efforts? Is this woman going to get health care? Things like of that nature, which is kind of a segue into the next question that I got.
Okay.
How political are you?
I've seen some of your t-shirts.
I know, and I'm always kind of like, I wonder, because of the whole me revamping and rebranding myself on my social media, I have my design page where I post all of my fuck Trump stuff. If you could tell, I'm a very staunch supporter of our 45th president. He's a great man. That's why I have these fuck Trump shirts.
I
That's
got no problem with that.
for those who don't. Yeah, for those of you who don't speak sarcasm, that's what that was. But no, I'm actually, I was much more political when I was younger. When I was back, and I say younger, I mean like when I was a teenager, and I was very, very, I was very obnoxious about politics. I was very, very much the person that could turn any conversation political and of my point of view, and like really pontificate toward people about it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've learned to listen. I just sit back and listen.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I do have my views, and I mean, I do have, like, again, the fuck Trump shirts I know is a little bit obnoxious and forward, but
maybe not.
I don't.
Maybe not, given what we're dealing with.
Given what we're dealing with, no, it's not. Like, it's probably not the most obnoxious that he's been.
Yeah, I would say.
But I think it is. I think it is a lot more obnoxious for some people. Some people don't wear their political views like that in such a way.
Yeah,
They don't express themselves that way.
Yeah, some folks are so conservative they just get amazed. Their eyebrows go, oh my god.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And they also they give like him the benefit of the office.
Right, exactly. And
my whole thing is, if you don't deserve the office, you don't get the benefit.
Yeah, no, that's true. But the thing is, a lot of people, I think they don't feel like they're intelligent enough to understand the role of the president. So they feel like whoever's in there understands it better than they do. And so they're automatically making themselves inferior to someone that really has no business being in the office.
Yeah, well, but the whole thing is like, Nixon, ended up not deserving the office. And so he didn't deserve the respect of the office when he was violating the Constitution. So, like, if you violate the tenets of the position, just because you're in the position doesn't mean you should get respect. I mean, and the founders, I mean, I'm a political science major, and the founders created our system. Not to get crazy, but the Federalist Papers and all these things that were written, de Tocqueville, all these great thinkers basically were very scared of the royals in England and the monarchs, and wanted to create a system where a president wouldn't be a monarch.
Yeah.
There were checks and balances to make sure, and limitations to make sure they wouldn't do that. So now we have a person that's not doing that.
That's the same thing. I've been watching I mean, this still ties in, but I've been watching the series on Netflix called Roman Empire.
Oh yeah.
And I love ancient Rome and Greece and Egypt. I love ancient history.
Yeah, they tell a lesson. It's a good lesson.
I mean, they still study Alexander the Great's war tactics today in the military. Like that is how prominent.
It's worth understanding.
It's worth understanding, and I think I don't have I'm not so much into modern history as I should be, because I feel like there's a lot that obviously you learn from history in general, but I really go back in history, and that's where I like to spend my time. So I read a lot of Plato and
awesome.
And Socrates and stuff like that, and I kind of live like in ancient time, and then I realize, well, I live in modern times, and I probably should understand like more modern history. But the Roman Empire was pretty much the same thing, where they had their checks and balances, and that was one of the things that they were trying to buffer against having an emperor. They didn't want one to rule all, and that's what the Senate was. But once there was the whole change of power when Marcus Aurelius died, and then his son came into power and decided to make it an empire. So that speaks to a lot of how our civilization and society has has gone and where we have gotten our societal makeup in terms of politics.
Yeah, definitely. The checks and balances
Yeah.
are being eroded by a culture of entitlement and resentment. And the problem is like all over the planet, you actually have this leaning toward dictators and totalitarianism. You know, if you look at China, you look at North Korea, you look at lots of places in Africa. There's a tendency toward imperialism, and it's very dangerous. You know, you can see what happened in Saudi Arabia to a journalist. I mean, when you have people have no boundaries and feel they should just do things because they know what's right in the people below them, like peasants. I mean, there's this kind of peasant mentality.
Yeah.
And it's very dangerous. And we got people in this country that seem to not understand how dangerous it is.
No, they don't understand. They don't understand. When it comes to unfortunately, the kind of white supremacy movement that's happening, or just white nationalism.
Very dangerous.
That's a very scary thing, and you see the president's approval rating is still at somewhat, it's like 41%. I think the last time
that's frightening to me.
Yeah, and the thing is, the reason it's so frightening is because of who is following him.
Yeah.
And they feel valid in their bigotry and in their way of thinking that isn't so much about unifying the country.
Yeah.
But it's a lot about oppressing and having people assimilate to their way of thinking because they have a president that will forward this kind of thinking.
Well, to me, it's kind of like after the Civil War, you had the backlash that created Jim Crow, because once they freed the slaves, they had to get the slaves under control. So they started to criminalize blacks to get them back into slavery through the criminal justice system. And so they would go, and a free slave or walking on the street, and they're like, well, you're going to get arrested because you're loitering, and then they put them into a prison and make them work for free. And so the criminalization of black people started like after the end of the Civil War. And then, then you had the height of the KKK and the whole idea of Jim Crow. And it was a continuation of like an imperialist, Confederate structure. And that kind of belief system is still, deep in America. There's still a lot of people that believe that. And to me, what happens when Barack Obama became president, it kind of was an affront to a lot of these people who had every other president wasn't like Obama. And that was like such a core, like they felt it was an affront to them. And so we have this like politics of resentment that they have to go so far with this guy Trump to kind of clean up what they thought Obama did. And that really is like that kind of psychology to exist. I mean, you could see that in like 1952 or 1928, but to see that in 2018, is very disheartening. If you believed what Kennedy and Martin Luther King, all these people were doing, then you see this is the result, 2018.
It's really it's really deplorable. I mean, and I've always been, even though I consider myself a political participant in some way, I always kind of question how much voting helps when you are voting into a system that is obviously and painfully corrupted. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna vote, but if they can change my vote, if they can alter my vote in any way, manipulate my vote in any way, how is that helping?
With the gerrymandering that they do. To keep the Republicans in power.
I get into a lot of arguments with my friends and my family, and they were just like, well, you have to vote because that's what, and it's just like, well, think about it. would you build on a crumbling foundation of a house? No,
No,
you wouldn't.
yeah.
That is exactly what our political system is. It's
Well,
declining.
it's dysfunctional. 'Cause right now
It's dysfunctional.
we're in a situation where we basically have a tie. So basically we're going to have a totally dysfunctional Congress that's not going to get hardly anything done, and then it'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy for some folks to say, look, the Democrats failed, so let's replace them again. And
Right.
And it's like, that is not, but people don't think it's like, well, you got to clean the house. If you want functional government, you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
You can't make like a split decision. You got to decide, if you don't like what these guys are doing, you got to kick them all out.
Yeah.
You can't keep some of them and think you're going to get something done. And Americans have consistently done this divided Congress and then not understood the results of what they've done. And that's a big problem. Until they really realize that if you're going to clean house, you got to make a decision one way or the other.
That can't be cleaning house on one side. It has to be everybody.
Yeah, it has to be the whole thing. And so if you don't do it right, then you're going to keep having the same result.
Yeah, and that's why I had this conversation the other day. Was like, it's a good thing that Trump is in office, actually, because if Hillary had gotten elected, we would be complacent. We would be stagnant in understanding how broken our system is. But Trump being in office exposes so clearly what the problem is. And we needed that exposure. We needed to see that our system is not serving.
There's a whole Horatio Alger myth. There's this whole idea that you're going to be like Bill Gates or you're going to be like Donald Trump, and that's not true. It hasn't been true.
Oh yeah.
And people are voting against their own interest.
Oh yeah, well, because what's propagated in our society to get people to participate in capitalism in our economy is that you can be a part of the 1% that's oppressing you.
Yeah.
You can be that person that has this however much $1,000 car or big screen TV or house. You could possibly be that person, and that way you won't have to be the oppressed anymore. You could be the oppressor. That is how we navigate politics in America. It all comes down to, in my belief, money and power.
Yes, definitely. You see a lot of blue collar people have actually voted themselves out of a job. You saw what happened to GM today. They just lost like 15,000 jobs, and it's not like under the previous administration, the auto industry was growing, but there's certain things that were done by this administration in terms of their tariff policy and all these other policies that now have adversely affected GM. Not that GM was my favorite company, but the fact that they kind of voted themselves out of their own work for their own resentment.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you guys, MAGA, like, I guess that didn't work for you guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of it it plays on the arrogance of these companies who have relied on the support of lobbyists for decades. And I don't know how I've gotten a little bit but I've gotten so aggravated with American politics that I'm not as well as informed, because it just exhausts me to see what happens and goes on. So I don't know how much, lobbying was kind of getting, dismissed in the last administration. I feel like that's what their intention was. I don't know how successful they were with that intent.
Well, more than this administration.
Well, more so now. Yeah, I can imagine more so then than now. But I wonder how much of a dent was left in the previous administration in terms of how lobbying is conducted.
Well, I don't think Obama was as heavy as a lot of people say that the Clintons are like conservatives. And so
they totally are. Totally are.
Yeah.
They're more moderate conservative.
Yeah. So I believe they had a lot of lobbying impact, a lot of PACs, and I think Obama and Biden tried to reduce that as much as they could within the Democratic Party, which is limited because it has certain factors in it. Certain groups that provide money to the Democratic Party, they're not going to cut off. But yeah, I think what we got now is Mar-a-Lago and a bunch of what I call robber barons making
Okay.
decisions for the meek.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty much what it is.
it's like alarming the level that's actually going on. I mean, it's going to get documented in the history books, but like what's going on right now, we probably haven't seen since like the 20s. You know, the 1920s or the early we had robber barons. You know, the guys who created the big steel industry, the guys who created the oil, Standard Oil, the Rockefellers. There was a time in America where these robber barons were running things not that different than they're running right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, you have to go back to history to understand what's happening now.
Yeah, they're actually going back like to that time period when corporations had child labor, like in the Northeast. People don't realize, like Levi Strauss, not to come down on them, but they had mills in New Hampshire that had child labor, right?
Yeah.
Not just like China. America had that. You know, there weren't any labor laws. You had 14-year-old kids, 12-year-old kids working in mills and losing their arms and losing their hands and stuff. The whole history is not as pretty as people would like to make it out.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so this whole thing is going back to that. You know, you're going back to try and, prison labor, taking.
Oh yeah, prison labor is a big thing right now. I mean, the reason that a lot of people are being like small, I guess, like misdemeanors or felony charges are going up because these prisons are privately owned. Privatization of the prison system is just work for them. It's just labor.
Yeah.
And so these corporations are pretty much getting free labor, and these cops are pretty much working as authority on the whatever corporation owns the prison.
Yeah, it's like Chinese. It's like Chinese slave labor. It's the same thing. I mean,
you're just busting people so that you can get somebody to work for free.
And then they take away your right to vote.
Yeah,
which I think is totally wrong.
Right, exactly. But that's another kind of manipulation, again, of our political system.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. I mean, that kind of a behavior is what we used to criticize China for that, and now we're opting into the same concept. Like the worst kind of capitalism is this kind of imperialistic, people who are just, robber barons. That's what I call them. They're just running things. They don't want regulation. They don't want to be responsible. They don't want to pay their communities. They just feel they should, build a factory, pollute, and then leave, and then not clean up the rest.
Yeah, no, they want to get in, make the money as quick as they can,
and then leave, and then
leave. Yeah,
they'll just go to Mexico or go to Central America or go to Africa or go wherever they want to go.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the same concept of why they think that they don't need to do anything about climate change, because we'll be dead, so we'll let the other generations.
Yeah, they'll fix it.
Yeah, and so it's just like that's really fucked
We'll
up.
be living in a bubble under the ocean.
Right. I mean, if you can even do that, I mean.
Well, the Japanese are looking at that.
The thing is, they're not allocating a lot of money for certain research right now.
Well, yeah, we are, but like the Japanese are working on like a dome city for a second Tokyo.
Oh well, yeah, fuck that. They're not going to let any of the Americans in.
No, they won't let us in. They're going to have that for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. In our country, we're not allocating money to like these advancements because they're like, well, we're not going to be around, so why do we need to figure that out fiscally at the moment? No, we'll just leave it. Let's just put all of our money in this oil and fuck up the.
What do you think, they're going to go to Mars and live on Mars or something?
Well, there's that. There have been coming across the recent news with Mars lately, and I think it was that they were. Oh God, I can't remember what it is. I saw it today on Adam Savage's. It's a.
Yeah, probe just landed.
Yeah. A probe just landed.
Yeah, but the goal is like, like even Tesla. I mean, CEO from Tesla, he's like his space. What's the name of that? Yeah, I know, I forgot. But SpaceX, yeah, SpaceX is heavily working on like Mars, like ships, and the idea is that they're going to build bases on the moon, and then from the moon they're going to launch from the moon, because if you launch from the moon, you don't have the gravity.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you launch from the moon and you have a full powered rocket coming from the moon, it can go to Mars way faster than if it launches from here, because it has to spend so much energy getting out of Earth's atmosphere. But if you build it on
so
the
pretty
moon,
much they're just like, we'll send something to the moon, and from the moon it'll go to Mars.
yeah, you're going to build bases on the moon to actually build the ships.
Okay.
And then the ships will launch from there.
Oh, I see. Now I wonder if that's a good idea.
Well, I think it's a good idea because the speed involved, it can reduce how long it takes to get there.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering because the moon actually has some kind of effect on our planet on a physical sense. I want to say, correct, right?
Yeah,
so
it does, yeah.
if you're building stuff on the moon, how does that affect how the moon affects the Earth? And
yeah, I think they're assuming whatever they build isn't going to have an impact.
Right. Yeah, but I wonder if they know that.
Never know. They never know how much of an impact it does have.
Yeah, that's my thinking, is like, how much do they really know that that's not going to help, or not going to affect?
Well, it's the same people who felt like, using like, oil powered vehicles wasn't going to affect the planet.
That's what I'm saying. Is like, you only know so much in the short term. You don't really know the long term effects of what could actually be happening.
Yeah, if you take a big lifter like that, you launch from the moon. Is that actually going to affect the moon's like position?
Yeah,
because it never had anything like that happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're assuming that it's small enough, it's not going to have an impact.
Yeah.
From their mathematics, they're probably assuming, oh, that's not going to have an impact. But like, it never got done, so how do you know?
Right. Yeah. No. It's, you. Then that's the risk that you take.
Yeah, you're taking a risk that, well, you shouldn't have. Theoretically, it shouldn't have an impact because it's like it's not powerful enough, but you don't know.
Yeah, you have no idea. Nobody has any idea. But
because knocking something off even just a tiny bit of a degree,
yeah,
can have a big effect.
That's the thing. So, is like, I feel like we're in that realm with science, with science, and with space in particular. I think everything has to be done to a very precise account. Like, it has to be accounted for and considered and explored. And
yeah, well, even the destruction of Mars, like by sending a Earth vehicle to Mars, you could actually kill microbes by its very presence. Because even if it was built here, it's actually probably has things on it that are not foreign to Mars. And as soon as it touches Mars, you could kill millions of microbes. You could kill life just by bringing something there.
Yeah.
And so that has already been like, oh, discounted. We're just going to do it because we want to do it. But,
yeah, I mean, that's, oh God, thinking about that is just really scary because you never know what could happen.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that once you go somewhere and you start, we're going to run into the same kind of problem we had when we when people came to America and they pushed the indigenous Native Americans out. Like, we should get to Mars and you find life forms. Are you just going to treat them like you treated Native Americans, or treat them like you treated the buffalo or the bison? You're just going to kill them, and just take over what you want. And I think there need to be treaties or something created to deal with rights in space, because what's the Constitution on Mars? There's no Constitution on Mars. What's the rule of law on Mars? There's no rule of law on Mars. So you start going places like that, people could impose very draconian things because there's no rules.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat, this is the new age, but we're running into a new age where people got to think about what's the law going to be, where people's rights going to be in space.
Yeah, no, it's true, because it's just a different area. It's a different way of life.
Yeah. It's a heavy thing, but people, well, who cares about that? Well, your kids might end up dealing with that.
Yeah, that's true.
You might even deal with that by the time you're like 89 years old. You might actually see that.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to be around for that. I mean, but at the same time, I don't know how much faith I can invest in that happening, considering where we are politically now and where our priorities are. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm always like, I'm a techie. I'm always hoping that the brighter angels will keep on pushing forward on certain things. But
yeah,
you know what, you got these kind of crazies running around. You know, the planet, we got crazies in China, crazy in the North Korea, crazy in the US, and it's like you guys all could go crazy and cause a big problem.
yeah.
You know,
No,
because everybody's still threatening like nuclear war. He's supposed to be gone, and now we've got people who want to bring it back. So they got rid of some treaties now that the arms race is starting again between the U.S. and Russia and China, which is not something we wanted to happen. And so in the 21st century, we shouldn't be putting any money into that. And now they're putting money into that. So that's kind of like, okay, well, you got one step going to Mars and you got another step going back where you could have a nuclear, in Iran or somewhere in like Taiwan if somebody goes off and does the wrong thing. It doesn't make sense for us to be in that position, as modern people. But, that's the fate that we deal with. We got one step thinking about Mars and one step thinking about a third world war for no good reason. Other than people make a lot of money from building missiles.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's pretty much war is there to make money, you know, and that's, again, going back to the Romans, a lot of times they would start wars because of their economic system. I mean, because their economy was so bad. And
we might be in that same spot.
and it's just like, oh, okay, I see. They start with money. I mean, and you saw that with I think was it more so World War I or World War II, where
World War I was about resource because Germany was getting strangled because of what happened to them in a previous conflict in Europe, and so they felt resentful and they felt like they were really being pushed down. And the same thing happened in World War II because of what happened at the end of World War I, the way Germany was kind of put down by the rest of Europe, it put them in a position where they were very resentful, and it just came back.
The war produced for people.
Yeah, I mean that was Hitler's whole thing, and even World War I was about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you saw that in America too. You just had a lot more. There's just, the necessities of what it would take for these soldiers to be in war. So
built the industry, like Germany built like Mercedes and BMW and Porsche were building the tanks and the planes in Germany. And then our companies that were military companies in World War II became like our auto industry, a heavier auto industry and heavier, like aerospace industries and stuff came from that. So the whole idea of the jet age, comes from World War II. That you end up getting the commercial planes start being built at a level that would have never got built if World War II didn't happen. So there's some things, the war was terrible, but it does create economic structures, and that's what tends to happen. It's not on the backs of a lot of soldiers, the backs of a lot of innocent people.
Yeah, no, it's kind of terrible to think that our government would start a war just to boost the economy, but I feel like that's such a common thing.
Well, the first Iraq and second Iraq wars were
that's kind of what that was. Yeah, that's kind of what that was. But that's why it's so devastating to know that's the kind of the default, resolution for economic crisis.
Yeah, it's like the wag the dog too, because when a president gets in trouble, they might attack Iran just because he's having trouble at home. Then he does that to make a boogeyman.
Yeah.
Not the Iranians have done certain things, but I don't think it's justified in a big war. It is nothing justified to do such a big think everything could be done diplomatically. So it doesn't need to be at that level. But we got some people that were itching to do another Middle Eastern war in Iran, which is not a good idea. But, you know, we've done 2 of them already, so it might be going that way.
God, yeah, it's just a terrible time.
Yeah, I mean,
Terrible.
all you can do as an artist, you try to express yourself and make statements about it. You know,
Yes,
I do something
as an
with my
artist.
music.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so that kind of brings me to my next question. It's not related, but I've kind of been going back and forth on whether I should answer this. Are you single?
Oh, a personal question.
Yeah, and again, I feel like I've hit the note so many times on how private I am with my life. But I guess, yeah, I am single because I choose to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'm gonna say about that. I guess.
Well, you know, you never. I was single for a long time. I never found somebody till I found them, and it's like that's everybody's choice, you know, to do what they got to do, and you know, people shouldn't, especially today with all the things that people have careers, they have things they want to do, and in the structure of like, you know, Nazi and Harriet type of life, whatever.
Oh yeah, no, I mean,
you don't have to have that, you know, to be successful.
I don't really. The thing is, like, if it happens, it happens. It would be nice. It's not like I don't want like a companion or a partner. It's just right now I've decided through a lot, you know, thinking about what it is I want at this point in time, I've decided that that's not a priority. And you know, it happens, but it's not something that I'm actively seeking. And
yeah, well, sometimes that just happens, you know.
And I think that's how it should be. And
yeah,
but also I've had to learn to just be like, yeah, no, I don't need to accept this just because it's in my face, you know.
mm-hmm.
A lot of people approach me, and I just shut it down really quick. I just really shut it down.
Well, you'll know when you don't want to shut it down, because this is, you know, when you find that person that clicks, it's clear to you. It will be so clear to you.
Yeah.
So you just don't stress about it. Just do what you're gonna do, and doing what you do, you will get to where you need to be. That's the way I think.
Yeah, that's the mindset that I've kind of been on lately, is just like not to put so much pressure on that part of life, because it just happens.
Yeah, I stressed when I was in my 20s. I stressed real bad about that.
Yeah, it's hard not to stress about it, though. It's really hard not to.
But then I I let it go. I just let it go, and when I let it go, I wasn't looking for it, and it came. So it's a matter of because I'm married, but yeah. So it's just like I was very like in this mode in my early 20s where I was like, oh, I gotta find somebody, And I just eventually I just like, you know what, I'm just gonna forget about it. And when I finally let it go, then it happened. So it's like a big lesson, you know, when you let something go that you really want, it will come to you, you know.
Yeah, I've been watching, and I know a lot of people are going to be really upset at this who are actual Star Wars fans, but my favorite of the 3 that were terrible, and I'm referring to the prequels. The third one,
they weren't that good.
Revenge of the Sith. There's a line that Yoda says, and he says, you have to train yourself to let go of what you fear to lose.
Oh, that's awesome. That was a good line.
That's a great line. It sucks that it's in the shitty movies, but it's a great line.
It's a good line. They should have saved it for a better movie.
They should have saved it for. I mean, there's so many good things about those movies that are just glossed over because of the terrible choices that George decided to make.
Yeah, I don't know where his thinking was. You know, he did 2 good movies, and then he screwed up a bunch of them.
The third movie had a really well. Actually, the episode 1, episode 2, and episode 3 all had great soundtracks. Like the music was great. The movies themselves were not great. And then I look at the movies now, they're much better in terms of like the story and the acting and everything, but the music isn't there. So I'm kind of, and
Yeah,
John
John
Williams
Williams,
isn't
which was
doing
so
it
good.
anymore. But
Yeah,
and
he was
that's
the
why I'm
best.
just like, oh, that sucks, because the music is like one of the most integral parts of those films.
Yeah, I remember in
Um,
the 76, 77, I saw the first one, and it was like a total life changing thing.
yeah.
As
Oh
as a
yeah.
sci-fi kid, like Star Trek,
Hmm.
seeing that was like a revelation.
Oh yeah, I love Star Wars is that's my home. I love Star Wars. I
Yeah,
wasn't so much of a Trekkie. My mom and my dad are more Trekkies, but they were also Star Wars fans, which is how we got to be Star Wars fans, my brother and I. And
yeah,
but I like Star Wars will always have. That's one of the roles I would love to play. I would love to be a Sith Lord. Um, but I know that the newer movies are kind of phasing out the Sith, which
yeah. I don't know why they're doing that. I like that character. I like the
yeah, I mean, I guess they still have the good and evil component, but it's just not going to be expressed in terms